Will the Trudeau government really hike your beer taxes? Yes, they're en route to doing it. Hi, I'm Brian Lilly, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. You've heard about this looming 4.7% increase to the beer excise tax. It seems that under the Trudeau Liberals, they decided every year we should have an increase in the beer tax. It's tied to the rate of inflation, which means that given how inflation's been going, it's not the 1 to 2% a year that the finance officials thought it would be when they dreamt up this daft idea. Well, what's it going to do to the industry? What's it going to do to restaurants and bars? CJ Healy is the president of Beer Canada and joins us to talk about it. CJ, thanks for the time today.
My pleasure, Brian.
So explain to people who, I'm getting a lot of responses when I write about this issue saying, well, it's not that big a deal. It's just a little tax. Is it a little tax to you and your members, be they brewers or otherwise?
No, it's a huge issue for us, and there's a number of factors that make it such an important issue for us. Number one, it's a production tax, so that means it's applied at the time and place of production, meaning that it is then compounded as it is as the product is moved through the value chain. So, brewer sells it to distributor, distributor marks it up. Distributor sells it to a retailer, retailer marks it up. Mm-hmm. Provincial governments mark it up. HST, GST is applied, it's marked up. So a relatively modest increase in federal excise duties is exponentially higher by the time it gets to the retail price.
And I've heard, it said, well, it's just 7 cents a can. But okay, if on a 6-pack, let's say you're just getting a 6-pack, that's 6 times 7. That's 42. You're going to have to increase it by that much, aren't you? So all of a sudden a 6-pack is 50 cents more than it was. And then next year it's another 50 cents more and so on and so forth.
So one of the issues is that it's not like we're starting from zero, Brian, right? Canada already has the highest beer taxes in the G7. Nearly 50% of the price are taxes already. Mm-hmm. And consumers are already feeling that we've hit a wall on price. So the impact of a new $33 million hit, which it is on beer alone, if it goes through on April 1st, is a $33 million hit that we don't know, who can afford to pay. The brewer doesn't feel they can absorb it. The consumer is saying, I'm already paying as much as I can afford. And our wholesale customers, our bars and restaurants, are feeling in a catch-22. They can't pay more for a keg of beer, but they also feel that they can't charge more for a pint of beer to the bar patron. So it's putting lots of people in sort of a no-win situation.
So why is the federal government doing this? I know that, well, sin taxes doesn't matter. You can just always keep paying. As you pointed out, you can't. I'm assuming that you've been talking to federal ministers, to different people in the government, trying to get them to understand this. We're all talking about affordability. Do they just say, well, yeah, we care about affordability, but not beer?
No, that's not the message we're getting at all. This is an unintended consequence of a policy decision made many years ago. It was to introduce an automatic annual inflation-based increase to beer, wine, and spirit taxes, with the thought process being within the Department of Finance that we would be in this Goldilocks economy forever, 1 to 2% inflation, near zero interest rates. And so their policy objective was to have a modest annual increase in federal treasury revenues to fund what they would call emerging policy priorities without inflicting undue harm on consumers or businesses. And with the roaring return of inflation, they had to rethink that and go, oh my God, we made a mistake in our forecast, economic forecast. So we're getting lots of positive signals that they will not go forward with sort of a peak inflation kind of increase on beer, wine, and spirit taxes in April.
So you're getting the sense that they will back down on this point?
So last year, we were in a very similar circumstance. It was going to be a 6.3% increase. And after great debate and lots of honest conversations and some arm twisting, to be honest, they in the budget last year capped it at 2%. So I'm relatively optimistic because every elected member of parliament from all parties that I talk to believes that that's at a minimum what should happen in this year's budget, a cap of 2%. So the challenge for us, of course, is that there's other people involved, right? Non-elected officials, department officials, people in the Ministry of Finance, the Prime Minister's office, who are dealing with lots of big issues. And beer prices, beer taxes sort of it's a challenge to get to the level of discourse necessary to get sort of that positive decision at the end of the day.
You've brought back the Bob and Doug McKenzie ad campaign this year to try and send your message. Is that what elected officials are hearing, that and from their constituents?
Exactly right. So as you know, members of parliament go back to their writing every week almost, and they're being asked, are you really crazy? Like we're facing an affordability crisis. Everything's more expensive. You're promised to do everything you can to make life less, more affordable. Is your solution to raise beer taxes? That doesn't seem to make any sense. And so they're caught in a dilemma there where, yes, they have to go back and talk to the Minister of Finance and say, listen, we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we don't fix this. And so that's why, again, I think it will be fixed.
I mean, you said 40, you said almost half, I believe it's 46, 47% of the price of beer is tax already. If it was up to me, it would be, there'd be no increase. I get why you would accept a 2% increase or be happy with that as opposed to 4.7. But you know, it's got to burn you and your members as it does me when I go to the States and I see Canadian beer made in Canada significantly cheaper. You know, whether it's just across in Buffalo or down in Florida, is that imported beer. The Americans are paying far less for your product than I am because of the taxes.
Absolutely right. So just to quantify that difference, in Canada, 47%, as you say, in the US, on average, 17%. So it's not a small difference. It's a huge difference. And we are in a global environment to attract investment. And to have that sort of great disparity between two very similar markets is a drain on the future capabilities of Canadian brewers to compete globally.
So, I mean, ultimately, my guess is you'd like to see a reduction in these taxes at some point, but that's not on the table.
That's right. I mean, again, as brewers, we're happy we are very, at ease with paying our fair share. And we think we're doing that and some. So what we're saying is, okay, there's a limit though. So, ideally a freeze, absolutely. But we would graciously accept another 2% cap.
All right. CJ, thanks for the time.
Appreciate it, Brian.
Let us know what you think. Drop a comment down below. Share this on social media, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.